This
why don't we start?
conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so welcome to Wednesday, October 20th, 2021, Monterey Select Board. President myself, the chair.
Justin Maycock, present.
John Weingold, present remotely.
Okay, so we're gonna try to dive right into it. We've got a lot of things to discuss here. We're gonna go.
Motion to make old business item 8, independent investigators recommended by town council, move that to the front of the agenda.
I second that motion, that's fine. All in favor?
Yes.
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 Okay, so, to give the public an update, I know if people tuned in last week, we thought we were on a path to a resolution that may not include investigators. Unfortunately, it seems that we're still on the path that is going to include investigators. We received some recommendations from town council as to the different folks that are available to be investigators. It's unfortunate because it's going to cost a fair amount of money, but we need to do it. So, Justin?
I'd be happy to schedule, I think the way that we did town council that the way that we interviewed councils at a separate meeting than our Wednesday meeting is probably appropriate.
I'm just pulling up the name.
I'm free Monday, any day next week, really. I don't know, John and Steve, whether a morning, afternoon, or evening meeting makes the most sense for you, makes the most sense for their availability, but I have to reach out and schedule interviews like we did last time with town council, potential councils.
So there are 5, the town council recommended 5 individuals.
Mhm.
So
I do think,
Oh, for God's sakes.
I'm of the understanding that 2, Paul and Ed, work together, and they're all available.
Okay.
I assume the meetings are going to be remote. We're not going to have them come to Monterey.
Well, I'm happy to offer, like we did for council, both options if they wanna come,
Yeah, if they'd like to come in
welcome
person,
them,
it's
but
probably for me.
what day, should we decide on a day? Monday would be kinda tough, because we have to post it tomorrow. Tuesday, we could post by, Friday, and then also, if that doesn't work, we have Thursday, Friday.
Why don't you make your phone, can you make your phone calls tomorrow?
Yeah.
So you can see what the general consensus is, if they're available on specific days, you can tell them.
Well, I was wondering for our availability as a board, are we all free next Tuesday at 6?
I'm free on Tuesday. Yeah.
John?
Yes. Okay.
Tuesday, October 26th at 6 PM. And obviously, if we can't, if they're not available, or if the then we can reschedule via email, but why don't we plan on Tuesday, October 26th at 6 PM? I'll reach out tomorrow and try to have a schedule
Okay,
together.
sounds fine. Okay.
That's that for that. Jim.
I'd love to get past some new business, if possible.
Well, there's warrant might be good to do earlier than later.
The warrant, yeah, so, actually, it dovetails into our discussion. So I did see a draft of the warrant, I understand that, do we have a new copy of it?
I have the ones to be signed.
Okay, so,
I have it pulled.
Are you making a motion to move that item to the top?
yeah, well, we can,
Well, second,
yes, aye.
yes.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, okay, the Article 4 is the senior service, so that I hadn't seen before.
Yeah, that was the board met on Monday, since the VNA canceled their contract. It was decided that the monies would be useful to go toward the new public health collaborative for, their program and any items that they would need. So you're not raising and appropriating, we're just changing the designation and purpose of the funds.
Okay,
The public health collaborative still would do all the same services that the VNA used to do with the health and wellness and blood pressure and flu clinics and, but the grant that we have for that does not cover the purchase of flu vaccines and the, refrigerator that's necessary to hold the vaccine, so all the towns are gonna be asked to contribute and this will, go toward that.
So, Article 5, to see if we would transfer some of $10,000 or any sum from free cash, for the use of these independent investigators. I was under the impression that it was gonna cost more than that possibly.
Well, my thinking was that our special town meeting is on Saturday, November 6th. And that if we interview and appoint someone next week and agree on a scope of services with them, they could come up with an exact figure and we could bring that to town meeting floor. So there wouldn't be any guesswork involved.
So so basically looking for like a placeholder.
Yeah, I know we've only had rough estimates because ultimately we will need to agree on a scope of services. But I think actually 10,000 was, from my memory, on the higher end, which, because I didn't wanna surprise people with a much higher price, but I mean, it's ultimately up to the board and whoever we appoint, as to the scope of services, which, could be greater or lesser and depend on their hourly rate and their estimating, so I figured if we move along in the next 2.5 weeks, we can, show up to town meeting with an exact figure and that's just a placeholder, and we can always amend it on the floor.
Okay.
Was this approved by the finance committee?
Actually, it was my understanding, but I don't think they voted on it, that they actually were open to moving funds from the reserve fund to pay for this investigation.
The chair that I spoke to, yes, was in favor of it, and I believe there's going to be a meeting next week. They weren't aware of it coming on as a special article when they met last time. That wasn't presented to them. They were only aware of the SCBA article.
Well, I think a good point was made that the reserve fund is, for unforeseen expenses that couldn't be predicted at annual town meeting. But if we have a special town meeting, instead of the finance committee having to guess whether or not, a town meeting would approve of it, just, bring it right to town meeting, because, town meeting's the ultimate authority. But as to John's question of whether or not they, usually or the finance committee approves of this or does not approve of this, I think, we could, my understanding of timing is that the only requirement is that the warrant be posted 7 days prior to the meeting, 14? Cause I read in the Monterey bylaw 7 days.
So special town meetings have to be 14 days.
Is that a state
annual.
law?
Yeah. You guys have to sign this tonight.
Cause the Monterey bylaw says 7 days for a special or annual, and I was just looking at that.
So this is from the Selectmen's Handbook.
Uh-huh.
The warrant must be signed and issued by the selectmen at least 7 days before an annual meeting and at least 14 days before a special town meeting.
So Article 1, Section 7 or Article 1 of our bylaws Section 2 says, all warrants for town meetings, whether annual or special, shall be directed to the constable of the town and shall be served by posting attested copies of the same in the 3 places in town, namely in the United States Post Office, at the town office, and along Main Road, at or near the intersection of Swan Road, at least 7 days before the time set for holding such meeting.
Can't answer that, I mean,
So if what's, Melissa, what you read, is that state law?
it's from the handbook, it doesn't,
So,
I'm assuming it is,
think
I can look it
The
up
more
really
notice
quick.
we can provide to the voters, the better. But I just, went through the town meeting bylaws of Monterey, and it seems to me that is that's set forth in the
right,
bylaws.
so
of
yet
Monterey.
another reason why these bylaws should be looked at. Obviously, there seems to be a conflict there. However, getting back to the matter at hand over here, if the finance committee, well, anyway, the finance committee can certainly make their voice heard at special town meeting. If they do end up voting to make that available, then we will, I'm sure they will mention that at special town meeting, to be changed on the floor. But it would have been, right now they haven't voted on it, so we can't really take that into consideration. So I've got no problem with the way it is.
Well,
Steve, my hand is up.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, I'm getting used to
sorry.
this. This is what I'm gonna
Melissa's,
do.
yeah, sorry.
I was
Yeah.
slacking.
Hi, Don.
Hi. Could you just very briefly summarize what the items are that are on the warrant?
Sure. Sure. So Article 1 is to transfer the sum of $91,500 or any sum, or any appropriate sum to pay for the remaining costs of the CBA, the self-contained breathing apparatus for the Monterey Fire Department, and that's the monies that was not covered by the grant. Article 2 is to see if the town will vote to amend Section 5 of the departmental revolving fund by establishing 2 new revolving funds, and this was for the Conservation Commission. Article 3 was to transfer the sum from free cash of $300 to pay for an FY21 bill that the town clerk submitted after a deadline. It's $300. They don't have that in the budget? They don't have that there.
It was for last year.
Oh, it's for last year, okay. Article 4 was this discussion about the visiting nurse services, and that's in the amount of $2,400. And to vote, we're just changing the designation, right? From
Yes.
visiting nurse services to a new account called public health services. So the money's not coming out of anywhere. Article 5 is to set aside $10,000 or any appropriate sum from free cash to pay for the investigations that were currently agreed to do. Article 6 is a citizen petition to see if the town will to adopt. This is the recall bylaw, and so to adopt the recall bylaw, and then that's it. That's all that I have.
Can I add one thing? The state statute requires the 14 days for the posting. Is the bylaw, is the warrant going to be signed tonight?
We have it prepared to sign this evening.
So the Monterey bylaw is in conflict with the state statute.
So if the Monterey bylaw is, the state statute would prevail.
is that
You'll
illegal?
find your lawyer will tell you that.
Sorry?
That should be coming from the lawyers.
Your lawyer will tell you that.
That's Civics 101. actually.
It seems prudent that the state says 14, safer to sign it at the 14 mark than to sign it after that and have violated something.
Yeah, I think it is. Articles 1 through 5 all make sense. Article 6 is good. Have we certified, my understanding is that we've reached beyond the threshold of signatures for the citizen petition. Have those signatures in the citizen petition been certified?
24 of them have. The other ones you're gonna need, someone's gonna need to get in touch with the clerk since she no longer is coming in, even though she has posted hours.
I just don't.
So the answer is that the signatures have not been certified?
The other thing we could do is meet Saturday and sign this. No? We can't
Look,
sign
it-
it.
It's found not to be, legal.
If the signatures haven't been certified, how can you put a citizen's petition on the warrant?
So 23 of them have, and the understanding was that we only needed, or they only needed 10. So those were certified in time. You have received many extra, up to 103 now. You could always table the article if something happened.
Right, if
That
something, if it was
negated
deemed
that fact.
not valid, the article, the moderator would table it.
Well, I know I did say at last week's meeting that that a citizen petition to be inserted, a special town meeting requires 100 or 10% of registered
Right.
voters.
Which is 74 certified signatures, and there's only 20, whatever, 3?
So I spoke to council about this, because we have always been told that it was 10. And he said that,
Well, for an annual town meeting.
we've always been told it was 10 for any citizen's petition.
Well,
Okay?
that's
The
wrong.
100. So council said that, the 100, or it's actually 70 because it's 10% of the voters, is only required to force something on the agenda. So you have the power as the selectman, knowing that the people that had the petition were under the impression that they only needed 10, to accept it with that. The 70 is only required to force it on there, like you would not be able to say no.
Well, we could also just put it on there as a select board,
Of course.
You absolutely
And-
could.
and-
but we never discussed doing that, but.
Well, listen,
But I mean, it's compelling to have signatures and have democracy and I think that if that many people, I think, I would like signatures to be certified because I think if they aren't, that doesn't mean much. But, it sounds like there's some room for error. I personally would push for a Saturday meeting to sign the warrant once we can be certain of everything on it. And, I would be free Saturday, 9 AM or something like that.
You won't have 14 days. You've got to get it posted 14 days before the meeting.
Which is Saturday.
You would have 14, but I don't see the reason. I mean, you can, like I said, you can table.
Well, the
Yeah,
my
I-
reasoning would be that if I'm gonna sign something, I would want it to be legal, but, checked ahead of time instead of after signing it. Like I said, I think it's compelling, to get a lot of signatures and the threshold's higher for a special meeting, and so it was a lot, but I would like, I do think.
it's my understanding that they have
certifying
103, I've not seen that.
But again, the organizers of the petition were under the impression they only needed 10.
Why-
Because that's what the clerks have always told them in the past, they needed 10. So if they were advised that they only needed 10 and got 26, and 23 of those were certified, the rest will be, they just need to print in their name because they were readable.
I did advise last week in the meeting that it was the threshold, the accurate threshold, but, I'm sorry that other things were said that weren't true.
But it's the clerk that advises.
Yeah,
Right.
sure.
But it's always been 10, it's always been 10.
For an
That's the reason
annual
why we end up with
meeting.
18 bot.
It was never specified as an annual or special. Everybody was always under the impression that a citizen petition required 10 signatures. So you could easily vote to accept it with the amount.
Right, and if for some reason it's deemed not to be, permissible, then it will be removed by the moderator at the special town meeting.
I'd like to know, did the town clerk certify the 23 signatures?
Yes, she did.
Okay, is that in writing?
Yes, it is.
With-
Can we meet Saturday morning and just to make sure check, cross all our T's, dot all our I's?
So there's no difference between deciding it now or Saturday morning.
Well, we could have a certification that everything was done to procedure.
Saturday is too late, guys. Saturday is too late. You've got to get it done 14
Like I
days.
said, it's very compelling to have a lot, to have citizens put something on the warrant. I just,
Yeah.
Do think it would be prudent
So
do this, to check, to certify ahead rather than, but I guess.
again, if
Depends how much we
if
trust
anything
the
is-
moderator.
If anything is found to be inappropriate, yeah,
Did I hear that correctly? I'm sorry.
if anything is found to be inappropriate, the moderator, can remove it. But everything else here is ready to go. And,
Okay.
and, I move that we sign these and.
Of course. I mean, that,
I don't understand what the problem is.
Well, I
This town-
think there's a little, it's a leap of faith to check if things are legal and
If they're not legal, they would be.
after you sign, usually you do wanna, you're a real estate agent, and you wanna check everything before you sign something, not after, but
Actually.
I have a copy here if you wanna look at it at the same
No,
time.
I mean,
And actually,
it's
in most real estate contracts, there's a period for term review.
Okay.
So, which is exactly what's going on over here. So
Okay.
it doesn't, just because you sign it to me.
okay, that's just my natural inclination, but,
I can understand that.
alright, yeah, I would, was there a motion?
Yeah, I made a motion to sign these, the warrant and get them posted.
Second,
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
yes.
no.
All right, so the ayes, all right. So we're signing now? What we're doing?
If you could, there's 7 copies there.
Yes.
Justin, it would be nice for you, for one time, to stand by your convictions and stop letting Steve and Melissa change your mind on every vote that you take. It would be really great.
Isn't that exactly what you're doing right now?
You already voted.
I will say in the future, let's certify, I guess, in this case.
Oh, I think, sorry about that. Can I sign that? Where on Main Street do they put it now that the,
I'm not sure, I'll ask Julio when he comes in tomorrow.
is that all?
Make sure you have something.
All right, so where is that?
So
Let's just, if we, Justin, if it's okay, if we knock off a few little things.
just an FYI.
Oh, yes.
John is still online, but he's not on screen, so I think he's left the room that he's in.
I don't, is he there?
He's not sitting in his chair. He's not, I can't see him. He
Like,
walked
he's still logged
off.
in.
He walked off.
So logged in.
He's still logged in, but
So he went out for smoke. Okay, so let's take off these guys because they include some appointments. Number 2, trick or treat.
yes, I just wanted to confirm that the hours would be, Steve, you missed one. That the hours would be 5 to 7 like they usually are.
does that sound reasonable? Is that-
Yeah, is
Anybody
that
that
the
wants to
fire station
participate.
or?
I don't know if the fire station's participating, this would just be for the hours for the homes here.
Oh, I
Handle
see.
candy.
Yeah, I know the library hosts an event and sometimes, yeah,
What time are they hosting
we double check on that.
it? Okay.
Because things can kind of kick off after that, so might help people to know what that is.
Can I ask a question about this trick or treat? Can an address be blocked from, you asked not to have trick or treaters?
Don't turn your light on.
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
They come on automatically, you come down the driveway. Problem is, we have those dogs and, it's gonna be a problem for us. If you don't have it, you don't have it, that's, I'll have to live with it.
Yeah, and do they trick or, I thought they just trick or treat down in
My
Midtown,
understanding, it's usually
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
right here.
Yeah, so the library event's at 4 PM, I think, no, actually, that was the wrong thing, what month are we in? Oh, no, it is at 4 PM, so probably ending around 5, so yeah, 5 to 7,
5-7, yeah.
sounds good.
Okay, so I move that we accept that we
Just-
accept.
Note for the record that John Weingold has left the meeting.
Okay. Okay, so I move that we have trick or treating hours between 5 and 7. Give me a second.
Second,
All in favor?
yes.
Yes, okay. And is okay with the board if I just move around, or do you want me to have a vote for each?
No, I'm
Okay.
fine.
Okay, number 4, Historic District Committee appointment, Don Barkin.
I'll motion to appoint Don Barkin to the Historic District.
Okay.
Committee.
Okay, I'm gonna second that. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes. Item number 5. We have one resignation. Lieutenant Castile resigned, and they'd like to have Judy Kenstein appointed.
Yeah, I'll motion to appoint Judy Candistein to the library trustees.
Okay, I will second that. And all in favor?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Review interested candidates for charter committee.
Yes, today was the day you guys were going to discuss that, so I've only received one email from a Catherine Hurst saying she would be interested to join that committee. How often do you meet and what are the tasks to be done? And I wrote back to her that that would be decided once the committee was put together. I haven't heard anything since. And then Ronald Winters wrote that he has a home here but not registered to vote here. Can I still apply, serve? And I told him, yes, I believe you will be. Should I submit your name as interested? And he also never responded back.
So 2 people?
2 people.
Thank you.
Mickey, I don't know if Mickey Jarvis can speak. I thought.
She's unmuted.
Mick, you wanna reach out to her?
She-
Mickey?
Hi, I am here, and I'm sorry I didn't send in any paperwork, but I would be interested in serving.
Okay, that's great. For you, we'll waive the paperwork.
Can you tell me something about this committee? I've never heard of anything about this.
So we passed at town meeting, at the annual town meeting last year, approved or asked the select board to create a town charter committee to explore, I'm not gonna say the exact wording because I'll get it wrong, but basically to explore the idea of a town charter and see how that would work for Monterey.
That's interesting.
So it's not to write the charter, it's first to explore whether it's.
We should have a chart.
I know, but
No.
but the,
To explore if we should have a
but
chart.
the committee, I think the words were that came up at the annual were, and then correct me if I'm wrong.
I'm looking it up right
It
now.
was, okay, we're just gonna get the exact words, I don't want to give it wrong, but I thought it was something like, to see if a charter is appropriate to Monterey or
Right, okay.
something like that. But we're gonna get the exact words for you, there's a audience member with their hands up.
Yeah, Don Coburn.
Mr. Coburn?
You're muted, Don.
I'm sorry, I didn't take it down. My apologies.
From,
There,
Hang on.
okay, sorry.
no problem.
Hi, Don.
Hi.
So the amendment was to see if the town will vote to require the Board of Selectmen to establish a town charter committee made up of citizens to investigate and advise this Board of Selectmen to see if a proposed town charter is appropriate for Monterey.
So that's,
Thank you.
that's enough. Wanna be on the committee?
Thank you.
The other thing, you know, when I've been talking to people about this, people were also interested in the bylaw review committee, which I know is not a. And with this, maybe we can deal with the bylaw review committee, which is a bylaw as well.
You want me to put out the same kind of notice to send out interest?
I would have no problem with that.
Yeah. And that's the bylaw now, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
There's a bylaw, you said bylaw review committee, so we wanna follow all bylaws if possible. And there's evidence obviously here that there are things that are sometimes confusing. So,
Maybe same 2 week period, or I don't know if the last one was 2 weeks, but
I think we did a little bit longer, but yeah, I'll look and see what it was and follow the same.
now, a bylaw review committee, as opposed to a charter review committee, we were having a discussion about whether is it just full-time people, or you have to be a full-time resident to be on these committees?
Well, we have a lot of people who are appointed who are not voters, if they're just to appointed committees, as long as we're not appointing to an elected committee commission. So, like, I would think, because it's an elected position, we would always go with voters, registered Monterey voters, that way they can run for election. But for other this that are not elected, we've been appointing.
So, yeah, so my only concern about
Good
this.
idea.
Sorry?
I think that's a good idea.
What?
So the bylaw one,
To allow people who aren't voters to be in some of these other committees.
So I agree that there should be committees that allow people who are not voters. My only concern is, I just wanna raise it out loud, is that when you're talking about a bylaw, the bylaws are things that we have to.
The voters, yeah.
Right, the voters have to live under, so is it, and we can take some time to think about it, but is it prudent to have people, regulate something that is not gonna be necessarily posted?
I'm the bylaw. And they apply to everybody.
No, they apply to everybody, but they don't, the people that really follow it are going to be the full-time, the full-time residents.
I'm not so convinced that.
I know, no, listen, I'd be curious, how other towns approach this, quite frankly. There should definitely be more participation by people, whether you are full-time or not full-time.
Or
But I'm just bringing it up for people to think about when it comes to things like that. Right now, let's just put a general posting out and let's see who we get.
Yeah.
Okay?
well, so
But-
just to clarify, the
so for-
bylaw review one is actually, you are appointing it, but they're gonna be elected after the first year, so that one would actually have to be people that could run for the position. The article states,
Oh, that's right, they change it on the floor, so now
it says that it would consist of 5 members. Members would initially be appointed by the Board of Selectmen for a 1-year term. At the end of that year, the positions would be elected positions with staggered terms of 3 years.
so they have to be full-time residents to be elected. Who's,
I don't know, it's not showing up as who
My
it is.
phone.
somebody's there. Okay. What else? Haven't taken care of that. Justin, do you have a copy of you wanna do the minutes?
So just back to the charter committee, are you going to appoint anybody, or are you now going to discuss what their charge is going to be and then appoint people, or?
Well,
I don't want it to fall off the agenda.
Catherine Hurst, Ronald Winters, and Mickey Dirks, I'd be happy to appoint them. I know a couple sent exploratory emails. And then didn't get back, but we could, you know, maybe I could get it offered around.
It's fine, who, you wanna reach out to, just to confirm that?
Yeah, I can reach out to these three people and check with them before we appoint them.
And then if you confirm that they still wanna be on it, then we'll appoint them to the next meeting. I'd like to discuss, item 1E,
Which one is it?
transfer station future staffing.
Yes, okay, so, just wanted to make you aware that Sean and I were, Beth and Dave have let Sean and I know that they are planning to retire in January. So we are gonna need to find new staff. Sean and I have talked about it. We're not so sure that it's gonna be easy to find two people to replace Beth and Dave. I mean, they do a lot and it's a kind of unique job. So we'd like to schedule some time before Sean leaves to give you our ideas. We think it might be prudent to put out a survey, because we're actually thinking that there may need to be some changes to the operations up there, like such as, having the swap shack only open one day instead of all the days. But it might be prudent to ask the residents how they feel about certain changes that could be made to. We also were talking about maybe, one full-time staff that might do other jobs like cleaning the town buildings and stuff like that. So there's a lot of ideas that we have that, because we really think it's gonna be difficult to fill this position.
Well, so wouldn't it be prudent to put out a posting? Now, they're 100%, they're retiring at the end of January?
Yes,
Yes.
100%.
So, wouldn't it be prudent to it's a post for the job and see what, kind of work it backwards? Kind of see who applies and then see what the options would be to, for them to man either the swap shack or the whatever. I mean, as I recall, when we started the new transfer station, we had a different crew, Dave and Ben. And then that job kind of evolved, and then Beth came on, and that job kind of evolved, so, but I don't think that we should waste any time, personally, to, in posting the job. I think it's important. You don't wanna end up in a position where January rolls around and we don't have anybody.
You don't think it's too soon now, though, to post a job for something that's not gonna start until February? I mean,
you wanna wait after Thanksgiving, but then you have just December. And again, November, you do have Thanksgiving in the middle of it, so.
The only problem is if you post too early, you can get people accept it, and then they, might move on to another job, because it's a long time to ask someone to leave around for the job.
Right.
But maybe we can, in the next couple of months, I don't know, there's
Well,
probably a middle.
At the very latest, I would say, is right after Thanksgiving, because then you have you have 2 months. But, or December, or the first week of December. We can decide this a little bit later, because we're not gonna post it right this second, but I just wanna the board should keep in mind that, that this is gonna be another job that we're gonna have to fill. So, yeah, there may be opportunities here, because we are gonna be looking for a director of operations and a foreman. Does that dovetail into also the transportation, which is technically under the auspices of the director of operations. So you might get,
Can I ask a question?
yes?
Maggie Barkin, if somebody wanted the position and could start sooner, do you have to keep Beth and Dave through their proposed date of retirement? I mean,
Well, I haven't really spoken to Dave and Beth specifically about this. I think it's something that's worth to reach out, to see if they would be flexible, if we can get somebody, if they can get somebody early, or we can have a period where they're both, where they train them.
That's right, there you go.
So that I mean, that's one of the great things about our transfer station is that, these people have it down to a science.
Yep.
I mean, you're completely telling me to move along when I'm chatting with other people. So we do want to benefit from their
It's just a
training
thought
ability.
that they're.
No, it's a very good thought. I guess let's just keep it in our heads. We don't want to let it get and let it stay on the agendas so that, so we don't just kind of forget about it.
So can we stick on that theme and go with the Director of Operations
Sure. Director Operations
update? So Sean and I, so we received 4 applications. One was an internal candidate, and the other 3, one was from Troy, New York, and he did not have any of the licenses that are required and was not planning to move, and he withdrew his application. The other one is from Dennis, Mass. And when he was asked if he had the licenses, because it wasn't listed on his resume, and if he was willing to relocate, he did not respond. And the other candidate is from Torrington, Connecticut. And when he was asked if he had the licenses, because again, it was not on his resume, he has one of them, and he has no intention of moving, and stated that he thought he could do it from over 45 minutes away. So Sean decided, his resume also didn't have any highway experience, so he decided not to interview him. So we interviewed Jim Hunt today, who's currently on the
Right.
highway department, and Sean would like to recommend that he take the Director of Operations position. He's not asking for you to make the appointment tonight because he wants to come up with a proposal for monetary and that, which I maybe will have to.
Well, I think also the board should have an
Right, if
opportunity
you
to have a discussion with Jim.
Yeah, I think that would be good. We might also look into, an interim situation, and I think, how long was the job post for? A month?
Yeah, at least, right, Sean gave us notice in the end of September, and it went out that next day, so it's been, almost a month, I think.
And the posting was very clear on the
requirements.
licensing requirements,
Yes,
correct?
very, yes.
I would just think that,
And
it's such a important and role with a lot of different responsibilities that maybe we could start. I mean, I don't know what the draft looks like. Start with kind of a probationary period, and maybe even do a more extensive search, and that could even serve as a trial period. But I know Jim is also very, very
He's very
qualified and done a
qualified, yes.
very good job, but I know it's a little bit different to be the head versus, number 2 or number 3.
we also, our handbook also states that we will always make every opportunity to hire from within. So, I mean.
And I'm personally concerned about, I mean, obviously you want a Director of Operations that is generally no more than 30 minutes drive from Monterey. They have to, I mean, hopefully, ideally they live in Monterey, but if they don't, the farther they are away, if there's a snow event, we need them here, but if they have to battle somebody else's roads in order to get here, then so these candidates here, well, first of all, the guy from Dennis, Mass, I mean, what is it? It's on the Cape?
It's on the Cape,
Yeah, so,
No, I think the point being, I think, from everything I know about Jim, he would be a good choice. We might also consider, a probationary period or something.
That is definitely gonna be part of it.
I just haven't seen I haven't seen the proposal, just because it is a role with many, many, many different responsibilities and employees under you, and no matter who.
Yeah, no, it's very demanding, and right, some people rise to the occasion, and some people.
Is there a
don't.
length of time that you would prefer, so that when Sean and I do put this proposal together, we make sure that it has your concerns in there?
Well, I think, 6 months.
6 months?
May be a good, probationary period, I don't know.
I think
Well,
that's fair.
In this particular
thinking
case, because they're gonna be coming in just prior to the winter season, they're actually going to be, so if it was 6 months just for the summer, I'd say that's not a really good test, but I think the test would be where they are coming in right at the beginning of the winter, and to see how we get through the winter. So I agree with you, Justin, 6 months, I think 6 months is gonna be a proving ground, because it'll be the worst 6 months, the most challenging 6 months of the year. So if anybody can do that, through that 6 months, and I think they're deserving of the position.
May I say something? I was remiss 2 weeks ago in not making this comment, and I want to make sure the comment is on the record. My name is Hillel Maximum, and just a few days after Sean announced his resignation, for some reason that I still have no idea why, he and his whole crew, Kevin the foreman and Jim and Tyler and Brandon, worked for almost a week rebuilding Beartown Mountain Road in anticipation of the winter. And this is a tremendous commitment to the town, even for people who are not going to be working here anymore. And I would like the record to show that we really owe them a debt of gratitude for being committed and caring about this town, even if they don't work here.
Duly noted, I can't agree more, and, I know that, I think even if he's no longer director of operations, always be good to have, I think if we knocked on Sean's door and said, hey, listen.
We're in need of some help.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that he would make himself available. Right. Okay, duly noted. All right, so you're gonna reach out to Jim, and then we're just gonna have, and then the board is going to, and then the board's gonna have an opportunity to have a brief discussion with him.
Yeah.
If
But I
that,
think we could also, sounds like there's gonna be a draft, proposal, and so we could review that.
okay, do we have the foreman's job posted?
Yes.
Okay.
We have not gotten any.
You've not got any, okay, because we're gonna have to also replace the foreman.
But Jim, expressed during the interview today that he has a few candidates that he was gonna reach out to, that he hopes would be interested in the job.
Tell him nobody from the Cape.
How about California?
So will the proposal be sufficient, or do you want Jim to come in as well?
I think both would be good, I mean, it's a large.
I'd like to, I think the public would like to, let's talk to him, yes, let's talk to him publicly, why not? We did that for Sean, I was actually on that committee, many years ago. Okay, any other spots we're trying to fill?
Not at the moment.
And by the way, I have not seen anything, it's HR, I gotta tell you, I've not seen anything posted from Great Barrington lately about that, I thought there's a third round.
We have to be able to meet to discuss that, so I have a, conference call with a company that provides HR tomorrow to see what kind of services they provide and if they would be able to fill the position. Then I'm going to report back to the other 4 towns. I believe we're scheduled for Monday. We haven't confirmed that yet. And see what everybody thinks and whether or not we're going to put the ad out there for the 3rd time.
Mhm.
So unfortunately, not the greatest news, but.
Another item I'd like to do is old business 6, posting meeting agendas.
Okay.
I know since the board voted for the town website to be our legal posting place. It's brought up this problem of when the town administrator may be gone for whatever reason, then no one can post agendas. I know that in Sanesfield, each department head or board head, to my understanding from talking to people in Sanesfield, has the ability to post their own meetings on the calendar, which would kind of overcome that problem, because I think, we need to be able to post meetings. Now, their legal posting place isn't the website though, it's the bulletin board. But I think we should find some way that we can, that there's never a huge delay in posting meetings, like we can't have a week where no board or committee can post meetings, so whether that's giving each chair access to their own webpage and access to post a meeting, or whether it's changing it back to the bulletin board that multiple people have access to, or something, we just need to find a way. We can't have a situation where, the select board wants to meet on Monday and they can't post it until the next Monday and then not meet until Wednesday. It's just, I think that's too big of a delay. I mean, to stop business like that, so.
Were there other, you mentioned other boards, were there other boards having problems posting meetings?
Well, when Melissa's not around, no one can post a meeting.
It's actually not, I've always made all the boards aware that if they post a meeting and I'm not here, they can call me and text me and I will post it for them. But they should try to plan in advance. People shouldn't be waiting until the last minute to post their meetings. And the last time that we discussed this, besides all the other reasons of not doing that, a lot of the board heads don't want that ability.
Well, I'm not saying exactly what the solution is, but, and I know in emergencies, people could reach out to you, but sometimes.
Not even in emergencies, I'm always available to them.
I know, but the vacation responder said like, I'm gonna be gone, and so you can't post a meeting until Wednesday. So we gotta find a way where people can, where people can post meetings and hold meetings. I just.
Other than Sanesfield, because I don't know if I want to use Sanesfield as an example. Sorry.
Well, I'm just trying to find a common sense solution.
Other than Sanesfield, how do other towns do it?
So I don't have my notes with me from the last time that we discussed this, but I can get them. But of all the towns there are maybe 2 that allow one other person to do it. They don't give access to the boards and committees to be able to do this. It's usually the town administrator typically, and some other occasions, the town clerk is also.
Well, I'd be happy to do, whatever creative solution anyone can come up with, which is something so that, we don't go a week where no one can post a meeting. And that's all. I want people to be able to post and hold meetings.
That's fine.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yeah.
Would you mind if I reached out to all the department heads and did like a little survey with them for their ideas, if they're having any issues? Do they see any problems with the way the current system is going and report back to you with that?
Yeah, that would be great. So I think that could be, whether, I can't imagine, it's not okay to have people not be able to post meetings for a week.
So who was not unable to post a meeting for a week? I know you're.
That was just a policy, it was, on the, if you try to submit, I'm just saying, we created that issue by making the website the legal posting place instead of the bulletin board. So, but now I wanna solve it, I'm not trying to go around, and whether it's returning to the bulletin board.
So why don't we just return to the bulletin board?
So
I think one reason not to do that is the initial reason that we chose the website, which is that a lot of people check the website regularly. We went over the fact that some people don't have internet access, but also that some people don't have a car to drive down and see that. So there's groups of people in both situations where they can't access it easily. We ultimately decided on the website, I think for good reason. I forget what the vote was, if it was unanimous 2-1, but we did. And now I'm just saying if we can find a solution where we don't have to go a week You know,
Okay,
when no one's supposed to meet.
so what?
Well, the other, just to add to that, is that currently, the town clerk is not coming into the town hall, so she wouldn't get those if you were posting that way. The second thing is when the town clerk was coming in for her posted hours, she's not here frequently enough to meet the deadlines either.
Well, I mean, I'm not, you know, I'm just trying to find.
Okay,
a
yeah, looking
So
for,
I think-
so here's, so Melissa, if this okay with you, does it, she'll poll the surrounding communities. She will present her report at the next select board meeting, and figure out, and maybe they're doing something that we haven't thought of.
But you're gonna pull
I'm
surrounding
gonna
community,
pull-
but also pull our department
Right,
heads.
I'm gonna pull the
Oh.
people here to see if there's any issues, what they would suggest.
Okay, good.
It seems to me that, I appreciate actually the point that you make. I'm not a fan of the internet, given that we don't have internet. And I don't come to town all that often, that I could go to a board, but that doesn't, that doesn't, you don't make rules based on one person. So I understand that there's a dilemma. But I think that the dilemma is short-sighted. There are some other functions that need to be done when Melissa happens to be on vacation or ill or just out of town for whatever reason, that wouldn't otherwise get done either. Okay, so when you look for this solution of how do we deal with the agendas, I think that there's an overall need in this town just for a rational response. She can't be here 5 days a week for the rest of her life.
Understood, Hillel, but I think there's, you know, let's say, you know, you're on any board or committee in town, and, you know, you can't post a meeting.
I'm not disputing it, Justin, you're
I
spot on,
think-
I'm not saying no. I'm actually asking you to add to that, okay, so when you consider your solution for this problem,
Mhm.
that it considers other kinds of functions that we would like to have performed in this town in her absence.
Mhm.
She's entitled to days off. I hope she never gets sick, but if she gets sick, I would hope that she stayed home and didn't come in. And so we have, or any TA for that matter, I think that the model should be such that there's some
Redundancy. Right.
all crossover.
Yeah, everybody should have that.
And all, I'm certainly not, denying what you're saying, I'm just saying there are other serious issues, as serious as the agendas, or maybe more, that need to be considered when you develop this model.
I agree, yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
There's two things that I'd like to, that's on this agenda. And we're going all over the place over here. But one's very small. Can we, I move that we accept the police donation of $25.
Second,
Okay, all in favor?
yes.
Yes.
What's that donation?
Somebody made a private donation to the police department.
Oh, that's nice.
And generally, towns have a general policy about it. We don't have a policy right now. Usually over, there's a threshold of how much donations the certain departments can, police department can get. We don't, so that we have to basically vote on every one of them. If you wanna make a policy about,
No, I think that's the way we do it is good.
okay, so we accepted that. Thank you. The other one that I'm personally interested in, to at least begin a discussion about it, is 1E, the community survey for the ARPA funds. So, what?
Oh, no, so it was a preliminary, I just wanted to put it in your minds. I don't know if you saw the article about Great Barrington. I thought it might be useful to do the same kind of thing that they're doing, have a meeting and then have a survey go out of what the community would like to see the funds spent on. There's only a few limited purposes that it can be used for.
What does that stand for?
American Rescue Plan Act funds.
Yes.
So the expenditures must fall into 5 categories: public health, economic impact of the COVID-19 emergency, loss of public sector revenue, premium pay for essential workers, and water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure.
Yeah.
So I thought it just might be I did apply for the money already, so we have the first half that we can get.
Which is approximately, I'm not gonna hold you to it. I'm not gonna hold you to it.
40,000, 80,000? I really don't remember, I'm
I
sorry, I don't want you to,
I thought it was more.
I don't
than
wanna
that.
say, it might
Anyway,
be, I
there are
don't.
funds coming to Monterey. The difference between a lot of the towns and cities got their funds directly from the federal government, but for smaller communities, they went first to the Commonwealth, and then from the Commonwealth to us, so there's actually been a delay, of Monterey getting those funds. I did explore, by the way, I did have a brief discussion with our tax collector. When I first heard that we were getting ARPA funds, I asked her for her opinion, because I would love to have the ability to give some of that money back to the taxpayers. But in thinking about how that might be done, it seems that it's not set up for that purpose, and it would be extremely difficult to do. But in the general sense, if I could snap my fingers, I think some of it should go back in taxpayers' pockets. The next best thing that we can do is try to find some areas where it would benefit the most amount of people in Monterey, or certainly the people that have been hurt the most by this pandemic, because that essentially is the money that the federal government is giving us to help us along with what we suffered during the pandemic. So keep in mind that these things, and we're gonna, but as community service is great. I think this is where the public should decide what we do with these funds. Are we gonna do a draft, or we can?
Yeah, I mean, if you want me to work on it, I'll start putting it together, I mean, there's no, urgency.
It's not gonna be actually, I mean, we can't get when can we get our hands on it?
We have the money right now.
I think
It's
you
been
have to have it.
deposited, but we have to find the purpose that is accepted before we can actually spend it. Because then when I do the reporting,
Are we allowed for multi-purposes, or you have to pick one?
no, I believe you are allowed for multi-purposes. But it
Can
has
you
to
go
be
to
one
the
of those 5 that I just
Air
listed.
machine that the fire department uses?
Can't use it for air packs, I don't think.
No?
That would make sense.
But
Nice.
that's good thinking out of the box there. So I would say let's start working on a draft to make it, it's too late, and then this community survey would be available on the web, I
Yeah,
guess.
we make it available everywhere, paper copies and on the web, and
Would you mail it to us, or do we have to come and get it?
sure, we could decide to mail it too if you wanted to. But just give me the permission to start creating something first, and
So I move that we have, Melissa begin to draft a community survey, to elicit, suggestions from the general public on how to use the ARPA funds that are designated for Monterey.
And then do you wanna provide it, you think that's gonna take a week or a couple weeks?
yeah, can you give me 2 weeks at least?
2 weeks, sure.
I'll try to be more efficient, but.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, I vote, well, let's open that, any public discussion on that?
Good luck.
Good luck, thank you. Okay, so I vote yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Another thing that might make sense, to go through all the mail and correspondence and old business, A through G, since it's old mail. Old.
That would be
Sure.
great if you could do that. I said, that would be great if you could do that.
Yeah, and, yeah, I mean.
So the finance committee requested council review something. I would motion that we send it along to,
I'd like to excuse myself. Thank you very much. I think it was a very civil meeting,
Thank you for spending some time with us.
and I'll be back.
Um,
And it's nice to see you again.
You
Yeah, I
too.
haven't met you. I'm Hillel Maximum.
Peter Merca.
Oh, Peter. Peter, you were sitting there.
I move around, you know.
You were standing here and sitting there, it's
Turkey.
Okay, nice to see you.
Please note that after November 1st, we do have a long pants ordinance.
Really? Can you show it to me, please?
I'm joking.
Can you show it to me, please? There are too many ordinances here.
Good night.
Good
Good
night.
night,
Good night.
thank you.
Oh, Peter, I'm sorry.
Peter Marquette, I don't know when appropriate time to bring this up, but I'll just bring it up anyway, you can tell me. I came in to ask if the town has investigated or considered getting solar energy on municipal buildings or municipal properties, or taken any steps to, engage the town with renewable energy of any sort, solar panels, whatever.
So that's a good question. So the town did pass a solar bylaw 2 years ago, 3 years ago. And in the process of applying for green communities, to be green communities, we did look at areas. Actually, I wasn't on the board when that happened, but I understand that Carol had looked at areas where it would be appropriate to put in solar, like a solar field and what have you. They didn't find much. Now, there's one, we just got approved for a grant for an updating of our master plan. And so I would hope and we could, remind the planning board, because the planning board's gonna be taking the lead on it. But, master plans generally do include kind of an idea of where you would use renewable energy. One of the ideas that I explored a long time ago with Dennis Lynch was putting solar, a solar array where the transfer station is.
Mhm.
Because there's a certain amount of area there, and at the time.
The old gravel bed, or?
Well, actually, that old, the berm that now goes up behind, it used to be covered with trees, and then the DEP made us get rid of all the trees. And so, and then so that was the hill made of sand and various things. At one point, they don't allow you to put anything on there, but at a certain point, they actually allow you to do it, and a few things, and one of the things they do allow is solar. But then it kind of just, evaporated, as an idea. But I think it's a good time to start exploring it, because that might be a good idea. One of the other ideas, that was bandied about, and I know that I had a brief discussion with, Lizanne at Cool Farm was, if, this idea of there are solar fields where they're solar fields for grazing cattle. Basically, put a solar field, it's a combination of solar field, and it's on land that's only used for grazing. So the cows eat, and you have it by, actually, Guidos, they do it with sheep or goats. Have a solar field, but they also allow animals to graze underneath it. So, I spoke to her briefly about that a couple of years ago, and she said she was certainly open to exploring it, but it kind of, everybody got busy with different things as COVID kind of
Sure.
stopped a lot of these impromptu conversations, because now you gotta make appointments and such.
I wonder how we might put a tack on that chair.
Yeah, now that's a committee that is, to me, is worth forming, is basically a renewable energy committee, in town. I do have to say that there was a study done quite a while ago, when Otis was putting up their wind turbine, to see if there was any place that would be suitable for it. And unfortunately, in Monterey, there's no suitable area for a turbine. So it'd really probably be confined to solar.
Yeah, it's understood that, it has to be done right, whatever it is. And if it's, if you study the situation, it's not appropriate for a turbine, you don't use a turbine.
Right.
But, something is better than nothing.
Yeah.
On that score.
No, especially since the technology has gotten much better over the last couple of years, and it's become a little bit more cost effective. But I do think that there should be, and there's always possibility of these public-private partnerships that you can do, especially with something like Gould Farm, Baby Hume, and that's so we should keep that on the let's do this. Let's keep it out. Let's keep that on the agenda. And I mean, would you, if we were to form a ad
Yes,
hoc
yes,
renewable energy committee?
yes.
Okay.
I would need to know from the board, what the parameters are, what's expected. I have no experience in grant writing, I have an interest, that's
So luckily,
all there is to it.
luckily, we still do have 2 good grant writers in town, or 3, actually 3 good grant writers in town. So it's step 1 is to find out what you can do.
Right.
So step 2 is then you find out how you're gonna pay for it, at least in my world. So, because again, there was a whole lot of conflicting information when I was first looking at putting it up at the transfer station, because I was told you can't do it, and then I did a little research and found out actually you can. It's one of the few things you can do over there.
Did you do that on your own?
I did. Dennis Lynch and I, just as a research experiment, we just started looking up things. Never brought it to the board. The board never, it was never, there was no discussion about it. It was just, we were doing it as a purely investigative thing. And the idea was if we had some concrete steps, we actually were also prepared, at one point there was a professor at MIT who was doing a whole new type of solar array. We reached out to him as well, to see if he'd be interested in using Monterey as a kind of a test proving ground for this vertical solar array. So they look like tree. I mean, instead of
I see,
flat.
I see, interesting.
It occurred, Maggie Barkin, Cultural Council, it occurs to me that a grant, it's, for the culture of the community, money could be set aside to pursue a study or to create, a group, out of the community center or some kind of a setting, to explore it for a year.
Yeah, I don't
know if any resources are needed, but
You just have to have
it's
a.
another way to promote and publicize.
Right.
That's all.
I don't say this because I have time on my hands, and
No.
It's just that it's an interest, and I might be in a position to put some time into it, but I can imagine that, very quickly there might be expenses. If you want to hire someone to analyze the town of Monterey in terms of what can be done under a municipal umbrella, not as private home, or under some program that helps support private homes, I don't know. But
So step 1 would be to contact the planning board and to find out from them if the master plan, if the grant funding that came in for the master plan is included a review of the ability for renewable energy.
okay.
I don't know the answer to that. So that's step 1.
Right.
Okay. Then step 2, and then step 2 is basically hopefully taking that analysis and trying to figure out what the requirements would be for, and you need X number of square feet of panels to produce a reasonable amount of energy. You know, just putting 3 in a row is not gonna do it. So, then you have to start looking for areas that are town-owned or cooperative. But the first thing is to contact the planning board
Okay,
and see what they might have a recommendation that I'm not thinking about.
okay.
So let's we started the conversation, this is good. And then, and I personally, I've got no problem at some point making a motion to put together a renewable energy ad hoc committee for explanation. A lot of it is research.
Yep.
You know, I mean, that's what it is. When
Right.
Dennis and I were looking at it, it was just, we were just going through all these different scenarios and what they were doing in different parts of the country and this and that. You really want to stick with Northeast is a very specific thing because I guess our sun is lower, gets much lower in the winter, and it's got to be able to take the energy not only in the summertime but in the wintertime as well. So,
Do you have any, notes or documents from research?
I'm sure it's buried under somewhere. But I would reach out to Dennis. Do you know Dennis Lynch?
I don't know.
If
The
you
name
want-
is familiar, that's all.
Yeah, I would give you, if you want, I'll put you guys together and you can
Sure.
talk to him about it. He's very good.
Okay.
And he's great with research. Okay, so, is there anything else here that is pressing?
Yeah, can we try to get rid of some of the, and Justin had a motion.
I'm sorry, Justin.
Try to get
The
some of the
Finance
email.
committee, a document they wanted council review, a motion to send that along to council.
I'm sorry, they wanted to review what?
They wanted council to review a letter.
Review a letter?
Yeah, this is from 5 or 6 months ago.
Right, this is from when, remember when they felt they were being harassed and they wanted council to represent them, and I believe you were at the town meeting when Jeremiah did respond to John Silbert, even though John says he wasn't responded to here.
So,
This
how
was
long ago was this letter?
This was March 22nd, 2021 was the original request. Requesting representation in the matter of a private citizen making allegations that Rebecca Wolin and Jonathan Silbert, members of the Finance Committee, are guilty of harassing and severely damaging the Monterey Fire Company.
I was hoping to get through this entire meeting without using any of those words.
They voted that we sent along to council,
Did they
I
voted?
believe. I would motion to
Fine,
send along a letter to council.
council.
Yes, I can send that along if necessary.
Fine.
Is there a reason you wouldn't want it to go through me, or?
No, I was just
Do you
gonna
use your
say I can
procedure?
send it.
Okay.
Yeah. Laura asked just that her name be changed, I believe that's been resolved, but that's an
It
issue.
has, yes, Lynn responded to you on the 22nd of September. Did you want to read her response to it, or?
That her name be changed,
Yes,
so
the
the
reason
name has
Laura's
been
name was
changed.
K in the report was by mistake because she uses the name K in her email address, and that was what we were used to seeing. Honest mistake, it was corrected,
So it's resolved,
it's resolved.
okay.
Okay.
Michelle asked for documents related to hiring KP Law. It was, I guess, seen as a board thing as well as an individual thing, but as far as I'm concerned, any documents the board has, every individual has. So I sent along that public records request.
Well, the last time I spoke to Michelle, is that side, does she still want,
I assume, I saw her last night, I assume she still wants them, she didn't mention it.
Well, my point being, it's a public records request. I think each individual is accountable. I don't think that there's anything that the board would have that, and like, I sent along everything I had, whether it was just me business or the board business. So.
okay, so you sent all your information?
I guess if there's a problem and an individual hasn't sent along what they're requested to, that should be taken up with the state office, right?
Right, have you sent all your documents, or did you have any documents?
I didn't have any
Okay,
documents.
so Steve didn't have any, so I'll let her know if she
Well, you
didn't.
had all the documents that, there was a number of documents that the whole board received. so you had those, at the very least.
Yeah, but those are just, general documents, there was no correspondence, I didn't have any correspondence.
Yeah, but I mean, that public records request, I just sent anything that was delineated, so.
Okay.
I just think, can we take it off of here? If there's a problem, then
No.
I'll advise her.
stay in the office, right?
I will say for the record, though, that I actually asked Mr. Weigel to produce the documents that he had in correspondence. I asked both of you.
Yeah.
You did it right away. I have not received any of this.
Okay.
Okay, so anyway, so this one more. But anyway, okay. What else? Mr. Coburn's email regarding,
RAO position. I think that can be RAO could be taken up at another meeting, probably.
can we remove all the RAO, discussions until the conclusion of this current round of investigations, and then we'll see where we're at with staffing?
Well, the only thing I would say about RAO is that when I read the public records, guidance, they seem to say that if digital copies can be provided, then they should be over print copies. Are you familiar with that?
Unless you request print copies, right?
Okay.
Yep.
So
But
we are preferencing digital copies as possible, right?
Right, previous council did state that if for some reason that, like if redactions needed to be made and I couldn't, like if you had to do them in print, then you do have the flexibility to not fulfill it,
Yeah,
via electronic records.
If there's an option and it's equal, it says in the public records guidance, digital copies are preferenced.
Yes. So is that okay to remove all RAO items then?
That's all, that's the main thing I need to say.
So,
Don E. Coburn's email on audience participation board meeting rules.
so I think that we're making headway right now with, I'm sure you would agree.
Yeah, I don't think we need to adopt any more rules.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you.
Community law determination.
Yeah, I had to put that in the record. I know, this one's gonna take me a little bit though to find, they're requiring that, I have to put documents that, were part of the violation in there, and because I was not part of this whole thing, it's gonna take me a little while to, cause Don was actually the one that answered it. So I am working on it. It will be posted properly and I'll get in touch with the Attorney General's office to, but it needed to be in the minutes that,
Posted
It's being
properly when
addressed.
possible.
yes.
And then I don't know, attend to the communication of town clerk requiring computer security.
So the clerk said that, her computer, she turned her computer off when she left and then it was on. And I think it just brought up the general question of IT security and, you know, in this day and age, there's a lot of ways to stay secure, but there's also viruses and, you know, other things that can happen to computers.
Is our computer password protected?
I believe so.
Yes,
Um,
and Tom actually came in after this and assisted her with changing the password so she would feel more comfortable.
Okay, people should change their passwords regularly. And stop using 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Should we do 10, 13 minutes or?
Sure, wait, what was 10-6?
And one of you guys has
10,
to write
6, we
that.
don't have the minutes yet.
What?
But we have a month, right?
One of you has to write them. That was the meeting.
Jesus. All right, let's do 10-13. So, Justin, you made some changes? What are the changes? I tried to read them, but they don't show up. When you send them by email, I don't see them, I don't see the edited parts.
I didn't get them. Did you just send them?
So, inside name, specific town employees, Steve is hopeful that this will also extend to a dialogue between other town employees as well. The list, a motion was made to interview the list of investigators provided by town council. I didn't list out the individual names, but people can request that email. And so that the board should move forward by interviewing investigators, that's just something I said.
There.
Melissa tried to help Justin understand, I asserted and manipulating the situation. Justin required 100 signatures for 10%. Justin was in favor of following the spirit of order and transparency laid out in the open meeting law and Robert's rules of orders. Justin would like to make sure a process is followed to promote transparency, order, and rational discussion, deliberation. That's all that is.
Done. You did provide this to the.
Yeah, I sent it along at 5:30, just because I know with open meeting law, we're not supposed to be sharing edited minutes until right before the meeting.
So and mostly have a copy?
I
The edited
didn't
copy?
go to my
Okay.
minutes yet.
It was
My,
sent, it's sent to moderate,
So,
admin at moderate.ma.gov.
Okay, so I move that we accept the minutes as edited by Justin for 10/13/21.
Second,
Let's say yes.
yes.
Good.
so I just need to let you know, the weather station, the installation, cameras and stuff is planned for the week of November 8th. Next week, there are gonna be some new town poles, that are half the height of normal poles. One is going to be, at Fox Hill and 23. The other one is gonna be Cathcart Corner over here on, Sean couldn't remember the number, but he says it's somewhere in the 600s. And there's an existing pole at 57. So we just needed to make you aware. So it's in the minutes that there are gonna be, we don't have to have poll hearings when they're town-owned polls.
Gotcha. And they're within the easement?
Yes. Yes. What was the other things that I would like to just get off of there? Justin, are you willing to discuss my request to change office hours?
Yeah, I think,
Just asking.
one thing that I would be interested in, because I know with a Monday to Friday regular work week position, one of the advantages to the town is that, that's a very predictable, set of hours. Whereas like part-time employees, like the building inspector doesn't have that advantage, but it's not part of the position because it's a part-time position. I was wondering, do you have a sense for what days are more popular? Or is that something that you could record? I think one of the advantages of having someone in the office, in predictable work hours is so people can stop in and out, deliveries, X, Y, and Z. And I was wondering, is one of those days less popular or more? Do you, like I know at the library, they just check when people come in, but it might be different because depending on what people are asking of you. Is that something that you have a record of or something that you would be able to make a record of to help figure out what kind of schedule would work best?
Yeah, so I used to keep that kind of information before COVID.
Mhm.
I have to say after COVID and we reopened up, a lot of things really changed. I think a lot of people got used to doing stuff online. I can say right off the top of my head that Tuesdays are busy, and that's mostly, I think, because they're tax collectors here. Wednesdays are a fairly busy day. The other ones are hit or miss depending on, what's going on, what time of year it is.
Do you think that maybe for a couple weeks here, you could keep a log of, when people come in to help inform us as to, what people are expecting? Because like I said, like the dump, people have to know when the dump is open because it's very irregular.
Mhm.
But
Transfer station,
the,
you're a select board member, you don't follow the dump.
Yes, I could do that.
to help inform, anyways, I think that would be, a good step forward into determining what, affects or how a 4-day work week would look, just because that is a little bit different when it's a typical, work hours, you know, as opposed to a part-time position.
So, one thing I'm not getting, are you requesting a 4-day work week? Is that what it
Yes.
is? Okay. Got it.
Yeah, so I think that I would love, or I would like to see that before moving forward. To have information. So,
Okay, the all boards meeting update, I just wanted you to know I am working with the EAP, which is the Employee Assistance Program, and they are putting together, I think we're talking about December right now, some sort of program to lessen the hostility and negativity and kind of foster a more positive environment here and working together, boards, committees, employees. I'll get you the summary of they actually, have like a whole catalog of seminars that they put on such as this. They're gonna craft it a little bit more to the climate that we have going on right here now.
Okay.
So just wanted to let you know that I am in discussions with them and we are working on it. Tentatively, it's scheduled for December and it would be remotely so that everybody could attend. They may, depending on how many people we think, if we wanna make it mandatory or whatever, they may suggest doing it in 2 groups, maybe one during the day and one in the evening for folks that, so that it's not too overwhelming.
okay.
Okay.
Okay. Sounds good.
I'm assuming you're not gonna get to any of the policies.
I think we've taken care of what we need to take care of.
Can you just tell me if the other 2 items need the police investigation policies and procedures, does that need to stay on there?
I think that, personally, I think this current investigation the scope of it may take care of a lot of these issues.
Yeah.
So that
2
one,
through 4, I think, are all related to
okay, so I
the
think,
investigation. They can be
Right, so and they shouldn't appear anymore on, I think this agenda,
As well as 1B.
We need to clean up these agendas. I would make a recommendation, Justin, please think about it, because you can see how we're jumping around here, like, okay, take it, think about going back to kind of town business and then stuff.
Yeah.
Only because you can see how, if anybody's really trying to follow this, they'd be,
Well, I think I like old business and then new business. That way, like, for the mail, if we have old mail, that's, should be
Well,
done.
old mail, we should take care of.
I think this is good for now. We cleaned it up a lot tonight, and let's see going forward.
Is it? Yes.
The last thing before we do the meeting is just, could we, put the warrant, or the citizens petition under the clerk's door so that it can be certified?
yeah, I put it in her mailbox, is that right,
Okay.
or do I usually put it in
It's
her mail?
not right there.
No, you're talking about the citizens petition?
Yeah,
No, all the signatures are in her mailbox.
but the citizen petition that needs to be certified,
Right, all the
Where is
signatures
that?
that she needs to certify are in her mailbox.
where's the citizen's petition? That needs to be, the signatures need to be certified.
Maybe that'll make it easier.
No, I can't ask for comment from the public because she's not there to tell me who's raising their hand.
Oh,
Maggie, how are you?
I'm good. It's been an interesting meeting.
I'm sorry if it got a little boring,
No, it's fine.
sometimes,
So she gets.
that should be the goal, boring meetings.
That's right, just routine,
Routine.
not boring, but,
She certifies.
Not as neat.
and then you see
So
little
this one, she
ways
came back to
in
me
which
because she said
things
she just
can
needed these to have their
Right.
names printed in it, and so now she'll have
There
all
are
of them.
many ways to take care of things.
She did accept this and
This
accepted
is
all of
fine.
these signatures.
I assume being able to
Okay,
try and
So-
mediate
I'm
outside,
glad to
but
give you a
down.
copy of
Yeah.
that if you want.
so one thing is,
We can do the try.
Yes, that's right.
Um,
one thing is,
I think I'll go. Thanks, you guys.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, everybody.
if space is insufficient, attach additional page of description to each petition form before signatures are gathered. But what I do think that we should do is put this under the town clerk's door. That way, you know, it's secure and then she can certify it from there.
Well, is her mailbox secure?
Our mailbox is secure, yes.
Well, we were just able to retrieve this from her mailbox and I don't think,
Because her mailbox is in my office.
yeah, I think that we should slide it under her door. That way she's the only one who's able to access it, because I, you know, agreed
Yeah,
to
that's fine.
sign the warrant.
Absolutely.
Alright.
I think a selectman
Go ahead,
should
Jerry.
probably use everybody else.
Yeah.
Why don't you do it together? Do it
No,
together.
Go ahead, you pick one in.
Do it together.
Just so that it can be certified. The,
But I think a selectman should contact her to let her know she needs to come in here and do that.
Okay, is there anybody in the audience who would like to say anything?
Yes, Ellen Coburn has her hand up.
Hi, Ellen.
Hi. I'm a little bit worried about the certification, because of the hours that the clerk has. Those of us who collected signatures worked really hard. And is there any way we can find out when they are certified and going forward in time?
So is it my it's my understanding that that 23 signatures were certified?
Yes. She handed it back to me. She hasn't actually signed them, but she checked them all off as being, and gave it back to me. You actually were there when she gave it back to me and said that we needed to get printed names of, I think it was 4 or 5 of them. And new ones have come in since. I don't think that's what she's asking. I think she's
Well,
requesting those.
excuse me, I'm not quite clear on how many have to be certified. Is it absolutely clear that we don't need to certify more than 23?
no, you need to certify 10% or 100 voters. So in our case, 10%.
Right, so I'm worried about the clerk's hours being enough to get this all done in time. Am I worrying unnecessarily?
By the time of the town meeting,
By whatever time this has to be done.
well, if,
Steve Moore also has his hand up.
Okay. So again, it's I guess I have a different, my understanding is that the 20, that we need 10 to move forward and we got 23 certified. But the additional signatures are to, I don't know what it is.
So the petitioners were under the impression
Yeah.
that 10 were required.
Right.
But as Justin has pointed out, and we have since learned, it's actually 10% of the voters, which is 70, which is what Ellen and everybody collected and brought in today. So I think what Ellen is asking is, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ellen, is since the town clerk is not coming in for her posted hours, is someone going to call her tonight and say, you need to come in by such and such a date and certify these signatures?
yeah, I'll ask the clerk to come in and certify. To certify the citizens.
Cool, or you want to send her an email and just copy everybody off on it, so it's.
Yeah, I can
That's
email.
even better.
So let's just do that, so that we're all on the same page over here, and then just copy off the board and the town administrator, so that we're all, and so that we're all on the same page.
Steve Moore.
Steve Moore.
I would just like to have a clarification. Earlier, Melissa read from a document that said 10 was sufficient from the citizens to request that it be put on the warrant, and that the 10% requirement was in case the select board refused to put it on the warrant, the 10% requirement would force it to be put on the warrant. It sounds like we have 2-to-1 vote in favor of placing this on the warrant. So certifying the signatures beyond 23 isn't technically necessary, and you have voted already to place that article on the warrant. So I'm wondering what the urgency or even the necessity is for certifying the balance of the signatures.
Well,
Could that be
signatures should be
clarified?
Let me clarify, Steve. When we voted to, sign the warrant and approve the warrant, we agreed that the citizen's petition would be on there, but if it was not certified and legal, at town meeting, the moderator would, not discuss it because it wouldn't have been put on legally and certified. That was the agreement. So we didn't approve it, as a select board, we put it on as a citizen's petition. And any article could be put on by the select board, but a citizen's petition requires, in a special town meeting, to insert an article requires 10% of voters, certified signatures. So,
Because, so
And you
what you're
can
saying, Justin,
yeah.
what you're saying
That's the
is
discussion
that,
we had before we voted on the warrant. That's the discussion we had. And that's why I voted the way that I did, and that's the agreement that we came to.
so the select board, I guess this cuts a pretty fine line in my mind, that you agree to have the petition move forward if there was the 10% requirement met, at least
Yeah,
at town meeting.
exactly, Steve.
Could Melissa read back the actual text of the motion that you voted on?
So, by the way, it's my understanding that, that we agreed to, approve the warrant unless it was deemed that the citizen's petition is not valid.
Yeah,
That's-
I think
that's-
we're-
Yeah, so that's,
so if
So
the
that's what-
citizen's
so we
petition is
agreed-
valid, you told me that we wouldn't discuss it at special town
right,
meeting.
so if the citizen's petition is valid, then, we will discuss it at town meeting, special town meeting. If it's not valid, then the moderator can exclude it.
And so the validity will be based on certification of those signatures beyond the 23.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And all you need is 70-ish, whatever it comes out to be.
Anything else?
Yes, I'm
Excuse
sorry,
me,
forgot
may I
to-
Sorry.
Ellen and Don have their hands up.
Does this mean that we now have time to get those signatures certified if the clerk gets them done and they are certified in time?
Yes, if she comes in this week and certifies them, you're all set. If I understood her correctly.
So then my question is there a way for all of us who work so hard to get these signatures, over 100 signatures? Is there a way for us to find out if that's happening this week? I mean, I know that you'll know, but is there a way for those of us who care very much about this to be able to find out if it's moving along, if it's getting done?
Yeah, if you guys let me know when Terry is coming in, I would assume she would let us,
I sent an email already asking.
she would let us all know, correct?
So we'll let you know. I mean, we will, when we know, we will let you know.
Should we be calling you to find out how's it going, or should you be emailing us?
Call Justin.
Call Justin? Okay, you got it.
Don, did you still have a question or no?
I'm gonna hold mine today.
So the only other question I have that I forgot to ask,
If you want to know whether I took the dogs out, I'm going to do that soon.
council wants to know if you want him in person at the special town meeting or via phone.
In person.
In person.
Council always shows up.
I did tell him that, but I
In
said I would
person.
double check with
Yeah,
him.
in person.
Yes, okay, so you can, it's 2-0. Unanimous, in person. With that, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, yes?
Yes.
Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, it was a pleasure.